All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order Policies and Priorities Committee meeting Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. That all items in the Tuesday, October 12th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, September 13th, 2021, Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
The Monday, September 13th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Kirkowka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Reports 5.1, Let's Talk, October 27th, 2021. Move to discuss. Seconder, Councillor Kirkowka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we have October 27th as the date picked for Let's Talk agenda. What's council's flavor on how we format? Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think in the past it was good when we had an agenda and we sort of presented and asked for feedback, That would be good.
Yeah, I think staff is planning to try and narrow down topics and present to the public 2 weeks prior. So, Councillor.
Like with the can we move into topics? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think we should narrow in the
Okay,
format
fair
as
enough,
well, but
fair enough.
was staff looking for topics this evening as well? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you for returning. Yes, we are looking for topics.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Maybe we should all pass it.
Okay. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, so just a couple questions. Location and COVID restrictions. Double vaccination, mask, what is it?
So Ms. Thompson, we were, I think, planning for the community center, is that correct?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So yes, it's meeting room 4 and 5 at the community center. Masks will be mandatory. As it is a council or as a local government meeting, then vaccine passports are not required.
Councillor Kirkowka.
And that's exactly what I thought. So I'd like to see us, instead of doing room 4 and 5, that we move it to the trend. To the conference center, that way it stays out without the district policies over there. They're all over the doors and windows and everything else. To me, I think there's gonna be some miscommunication there, because if it is a council thing, and I do not have to be vaccinated, but I'm having it at the district-owned building that says must have this, must have that, I think it's better to offset that away from the district building. That's be my opinion on that. When it comes to, you go there right now, pretty much, I guess only if I use the weight room and this and that, if I'm an adult, if I'm over 21, I believe is the new rule, or whatever. I think if we stay away from that part of it, I think it opens up, people realize that it's just whatever's on that door over there, please wear your mask. Vaccination not needing to be scanned.
Required, yeah. It's a good idea. Councillor Howe.
I still don't think it's important enough to even have this meeting, to tell you the truth. We're in a pandemic, we're told to wear masks, get double vaccinated, and we are trying to organize an event where we bring people together into a small enclosed space and give them food or whatever, to have a meeting where we don't even have any topics planned out yet that are first and foremost at the front of our minds, right? We're just like, let's come up with some topics. Let's do this because we've said we wanted to do this. But to me, again, I think it's a pandemic. It's a time not to do this meeting. And I think the public would surely understand if we were like, we're not going to do it during a pandemic. We're just going to push it off for a few months. I still don't think we should be holding it at this time.
Yeah, I tend to agree to some degree, Councillor Howe. An indoor meeting is not ideal, certainly. As far as topics, there's multiple topics that we could include here, and the reasoning for narrowing down on topics is so that we can get the agenda out 2 weeks prior. So, Ms. Thompson, if we move over to the trend, local government business, wouldn't qualify as an event then? It would still be half capacity, but local government business, is that correct?
Thank you for trying just 1 second. verify. So within the order, it states the use of any place for local, provincial, or federal government purposes is exempt from the order,
Okay,
other than capacity.
yeah, it certainly begs the question, is this meeting needed? Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I agree with Councillor Howell. I don't feel that there's a need for this meeting right now. I just want to know from staff how it affects the policies that we have in place if we do not have one, because we haven't had one in some time.
Due to COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. So the policy states minimum of 2 and no more than 4, but council can waive their policy.
Councillor Howell?
I'm again like concerned about the optics of it as well. It's, you know, it doesn't set a good example for us doing that, where the rest of the public can't even go to the gym, and you know, but we're allowed to have because it's important local government meeting. We can have as many people as we want to put in a room and not have them vaccinated, and you know, well, no, we're probably not going to get 20 or 25 people in there anyways. But to me, it's just it doesn't set the example of what we're trying to do in the community with. It's not aligned with everything else that we're trying to do with COVID.
Yeah, I agree with you, and also, you know, to have this, plan a Let's Talk meeting and then in the same agenda, cancel our Christmas party is not really consistent either, in my opinion. So I'll move that we cancel the October 27th Let's Talk meeting. Seconder, Councillor Howell. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Councillor Kirkowka.
Make a motion that we waive our policy in regards to the Let's Talk.
Seconder, Councillor Howell. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Okay, 5.2, shovel-ready projects. Discussion on projects that are council's priority for shovel-ready. Ms. Thompson, can you start us off with a bit of a overview of what shovel-ready entails, please?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So when we talk about shovel-ready projects, they're projects that are already engineered and ready to go, so that when you do want to start them, you already have 95% of your drawings and everything ready. So there is an investment that is required if you have shovel-ready projects, and that's usually your engineering and your design. So, and there is a concern sometimes with shovel-ready that if you have something shovel-ready and it's a priority but not high on a priority list and it sits on a shelf for a couple years, at that stage you've already invested in it, but then everything has to be updated to make sure that it's within the current guidelines and engineering standards that are out there. So it's a bit of a catch-22 when it comes to shovel-ready projects. How much do you want to invest in that project? Are you, is it something you're going to go ahead within 2 years, or is it something smaller? Is it worth the investment to get it to that point when it may still sit on a shelf? So I guess I'm a little bit on either side of the fence when it does come to shovel-ready. Usually shovel-ready projects are those ones that you are committed to, even if you don't get a grant, that you will be going forward on.
Thank you. Okay, so we had discussed this previously about shovel-ready projects and being ready for grants as they come available, so just curious what's on everyone's minds. Councillor Kirkowka.
So just listening to Ms. Thompson, I understand her side of the shovel-ready projects. I'm not saying, I don't agree to have a shovel-ready project sitting there waiting for grants, and then we're gonna be doing it anyways. To me, we should find items that, to me, are shovel-ready. No, we're not willing to move on unless we have a grant, but they do fit into our long-term plan. Maybe they're not done in the first 5 or 6 years. If no grants are made up after 4 years of applying, and we move through them, or pre-next council move through. Whether that's, I think Councillor Howell mentioned it last meeting, washrooms downtown area, or trailways and stuff like that. Maybe that's something that we put in a long-term plan to do, but have it shovel ready so that we can apply for grants when they come available. Due to we are missing opportunities on these grants because there was a grant that was available, but because we didn't have a shovel ready, we couldn't apply for it. So I just don't want to see one that we put a shovel ready, but yet we don't even get any grants by June of 2022. We're going to build it anyways. Maybe there's a yearly or a light put there before we start to move on. Or town moves on doing it.
Okay. Counselor Howell?
And I don't know that shovel ready is the right word for us to utilize as a council. I think maybe if we were, something like a wish list, something that we want, but we don't ever want to spend the money publicly to go after it. There are certain projects in here that I think we all agree with. We don't agree with where the money comes from it. The walking paths for one comes to mind. I know we'd all like to have more walking paths in the community. I just myself wasn't ready to spend the kind of money that we were talking about outlaying, and we didn't have the people really ready to go ahead with it. That to me is something that just and my fear comes in. We put something on the shelf that either the next council comes in or somebody goes and says, oh, well, we got that splash park there that we were planning on doing for all these years, and then somehow it makes it into the agenda, and then somehow we vote on it, we do it when it was supposed to be a shovel-ready project, that we are never going to do this until we get money or funding for 50% or something, and those are like those real, the things that'll kick off your community. People come from other places, they go, man, this is a small community, I can't believe you guys got whatever, bathrooms on your trails and walkways. How did you ever get that? Well, we applied to the government, got funding for that, and we didn't pay for it, it was paid for by the government. And a couple things come to mind. Splash Park is one. Trail lighting is another thought. I still think some of our trails need better lighting. Still haven't been able to thread that needle with BC Hydro to get them to put lighting on the backside of the poles and the other side of Monkman Way. Washrooms on the trails. Another one that comes to mind that is being done in Logan Lake is a fire suppression system. Logan Lake did basically giant sprinklers that they put on the tops of people's houses, and you could basically they would go around and hook a hose up to your house, and that was credited for being one of the things that saved some of the homes in Logan Lake. Those types of things that it'd be great to have some type of a fire suppression system. Rather than cutting all the trees down on the back highway there. That was discussed through the government, that they said this is a way to prevent forest fires. Maybe we could do something like that, have some type of a fire suppression trailer or something ready to go. But again, we're not going to pay for it unless the government comes forward with the information on some just ideas and throwing out stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirkhalka.
Yeah, so don't disagree with some of the ideas Councillor Howell mentioned. A couple that I would never agree with would be trail lighting and trail paths. I think that was actually something that was taken off the last budget to be brought back in for 2022. And I do think that's something, I know myself, I 100% support re-looking at it and trying to move that forward into the 2022 budget, because I think we should have, some of our paths should be lit, but we should also be looking at doing the round loop that a lot of the hikers and walkers and moms with strollers have been asking for. He mentions a good thing, and I was actually going to bring it forward as a notice of motion. It comes down to that sprinkler concept. I was just trying to find it. So I actually found it, looked it up, the community has done it. I don't want to put Chief Curry on the spot, so I don't want to speak in a turn, but they did it as a fundraiser to the fire department. So a resident can buy it, pay the fire department for the item, and the fire department went to training and they install them. So you can either have them installed on your gutters, or you can have them installed on your roof. And it's there all the time. All they do is you can hook your own garden hose to it. And that's the idea. So good hit that you got that from Little Lake. But I seen the same thing. I think mine was Christina Lake. Same thing they put up. So I think that's something that we could be looking at in a notice of motion. I think it's, again, I don't want to give directions right to the fire department as they're volunteers, but it was a great thing.
Not anymore. Not volunteers,
But they're paid volunteers.
volunteers.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Howell.
Yeah, just again to staff, is there any, I know it's a difficult thing to talk about where you throw an idea out and people go, well, that sounds so good, we should just do that anyways, or I want to put that in the budget. The stuff I was talking about that Councillor Kirkhalka picked out, it's just thoughts, right? Something like this. I'm not saying those particular things, but there should be something that we can come up with that would be a real wish list that, man, it'd be great to have that, but we don't have to pay for it, and to me, a splash park is one of those things that I've always thought would be cool in Tumbler Ridge. You know, we had the Lions Club come in here at one point, were willing to give us about $100,000 towards doing a splash park. And I think there's even conceptual drawings on it at this point. But they wanted it down in the Lions Campground. And we wanted it up in the center of the community. And that's where that thing fell apart. But, you know, something like that should be pretty close to being shovel ready. And, you know, if it goes from shovel ready to something that we've had for 2 or 3 years and people talk about it enough and it becomes something you want to do, then maybe you bring it to the next level. Like, but that's, I don't know.
No, it's good to throw ideas around. It really is coming down to prioritizing what this council wants to foreshadow for the next 10 years in the community. Shovel ready, we have to realize and we have to prioritize that there will be staff time involved, there will be money invested in any of these projects, so we certainly don't want to throw money away or wasteful of it. I'm looking at the strategic priorities chart and I do see the building retrofits on there. I mean, I think those can be pretty close to shovel ready with a new view, I believe. Ms. Thompson, is there any update on those projects?
Thank you, Member Trent. So the town hall, we had applied for a grant, and that was just for the exterior of the building. So the exterior of the building would be at that point of preliminary design is done. So it's not, the full design isn't there yet, but there is a preliminary design on that. In regard to public works and the fire hall, just due to capacity, that hasn't moved forward yet this year either, but it is something that we are already thinking about for 2022 budget, what we need to do in order to move those forward, because they've been sitting there for a few years.
Okay. And then we talked about the pathways and the sidewalks around town. I think that's been on council's to-do list for a couple of years now, trying to narrow in on assessments and what all needs to be done out there. I think that is or has been a priority for this council to kind of move that forward. The reason I talk about wasteful is I think we should try and prioritize these projects to move them forward, and in the meantime look for the grants to supplement them. In the past, I've seen provincial grants, they not only want the municipalities to guarantee overages, but they also want to see some sort of an investment by the municipality instead of 100% by the province as well. So I'm not sure if we can get projects to a point where we can just sit on it for 100% grant funding. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible or not through the province. The possibility of that is definitely through industry, I think. I think industry more so takes that upon themselves to find a project and want to support it. But I believe from what I've seen with the province, it definitely involves a municipal contribution as well. So the fire suppression system, I think, is a very good idea. You know, especially where we live. It was a very tense fire season this year. You know, we certainly had some people looking at making their own. Yeah, I don't know. Where does Councillor Howe?
Well, like, the staff have anything? Is there anything that staff could say for us right now? Is there anything on the books? Is there anything on the shelf?
I don't believe so, but I did speak with Ms. Thompson earlier, and she had mentioned the sidewalks. There has been a lot of preliminary work on it, but Ms. Thompson, do you want to elaborate, please?
Thank you, Member Trent. So as far as I am aware, there is nothing that we have on the shelf that is, you know, we don't have anything on the shelf that's shovel ready. In regard to sidewalks, council did pass a resolution because we applied for a grant at the end of June for up to $750,000 towards sidewalks. There was some preliminary work started on the pathway system, just to get us a basic cost on it, and so there was a review and a general expansion of where it would go. So we do have a little bit on the pathway system. In regard to lighting of the pathways as well, instead of going on the backside of BC Hydro because of the poles that they BC Hydro does not allow that anymore. They have in the past, but they don't do it now. Staff is already looking into options somewhat like Chetwynd has done, but maybe not, you know, exactly what they've done. We've received some information from Chetwynd on how they did theirs and the cost that they had on that too. So that's on our list to review a little bit more and see if we can get some costs on that, you know, those would be kind of on our list already. There's always, we've talked about the training grounds and the expansion on that as well, fire training grounds. And we've had calls with Coastal GasLink as well, and that's where, so we'll talk about it on the AV, but we did apply to them and received $15,000 through Coastal GasLink. So staff is always watching for grants and seeing what we can apply for with current projects that we're doing. It's just that when those ones come up that are kind of like you have 2 weeks to apply, we're never at a point where we can apply for them. That would be what's on our lists that we've had, you know, in the back of our head on projects that we kind of discussed.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Councillor.
So is the splash park one gone? Not there anymore? Because there was a splash park one.
I believe it's on file. I know there has been some work done on it, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. Ms. Thompson?
I've never known this for a splash park, so I would have to look to see what we have on the shelf for splash park.
Okay. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So shovel-ready projects, what does that entail? Is that like having lands reserved for certain items? Is it a continuation of projects that we've already started? Let's just say we wanted to add more RV sites down at the golf course. What does it mean? You know, TRMBA, we have the pump track, but we also have the downhill, all that part that's still coming into play when we get tenure. Is it things that we can add on to, or is it specific?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. So usually when you go for a shovel-ready project, it's something that cannot be started. So anything that we already have in progress, we wouldn't be able to add to it. So if you did want to expand RV parking spots at the golf course, we would have to have a preliminary plan of where we want, how we're going to expand them, and then we need costs when you actually send in for that shovel-ready project. So if we had a basic cost of $25,000 a site, you could put it in that way, saying we're going to do 4 sites at $100,000. The grant is worth $50. The district would contribute $50. So then, you know, once we knew the criteria of the grant, then you would be able to apply it that way.
Thank you. Follow up?
Nope, that's good, thanks.
Councillor Kurkowka?
Yeah, so I like Councillor Kirby's idea there, which just brought that in regards to camp stalls down the golf course. So my thought here, and maybe stop, correct me if I'm wrong, or your worship, you can, but why can't we throw out some ideas here? Kind of agreed on those ideas, whether expansion of some campsites at the golf course, the splash park, whatever it may be, and it gets added to our budget because there's going to be a dollar amount put there. Not to build it, but to have it shelf ready. So if it's a week of staff time to go to the golf course to figure out how we're going to expand more stalls down there, if we're going to go in, again, I'm not doing their job, but go in behind the bush, the trail that's already there, and add stalls, they're going to need money to be able to go and build a plan, come up with a cost. The cost is going to change 5 years from now, but they already have a plan. They would just have to sharpen the pencil to find out the actual amount today. Same as the splash park. So to me, what we would be looking at budgeting in 2022 is an amount for staff to be able to go get that concept drawing done by themselves or by whoever, an approximate cost per spray park. Might cost them $50,000 to do 3 items or 4 items, to have it ready. We come up with 4 or 5 items. I mean, consensus, that's what we want them to do, and bring it to budget 2022, and they need $60,000 to have it somewhat ready, more or less, whatever it is. It's quick drawings and a quick price. So up to me, that's all it is.
Okay. Council like that idea? Councillor Norbury?
So just to take a little more clarity, our idea is for let's get a rough report on what the estimated cost would be, and then we take that to the next level, right? Because some things, like maybe a splash park, you might need engineering documents or whatever, right? Or are we saying let's splash park? I like the idea of splash park. I mean, I assume there was a reason why last council said no, so we're just not going to do it. But what are we suggesting? Are we suggesting now go out, start getting engineering documents, or get reports?
Councillor Kurkowka?
Yeah, my thought is is come up with the ideas, let staff figure out what they need to go and get the initial done. Now, if they figure to have the splash park semi-shelf ready, they need to do an engineer concept run, then that should be added in the cost in 2022 budget that we would approve to have that splash park. To me, the splash park fell apart when the Lions realized the water table down at the campground. The water table was very low there, so it wouldn't have worked. Now, I'm not saying that the Lions Club, I don't speak on behalf of the Lions Club. It doesn't mean project doesn't come up from staff, passed by council for them to go and spend some money to get some drawings or whatever, critiquing the ones we already have. And nothing saying we can't go with a grant and approach the Lions Club and it becomes a partnership. I don't think, if they were willing to do it down there, maybe they're still willing to do it. Nobody's approached us. So to me, it's the basic model. If they need engineered drawings to have the basic model, that should be added into whatever cost they need for 2022 budget to do it on the items of council.
Okay. Other comments? Councillor Kirkpatrick.
Well, I mean, I don't want to steal people's items, but I put the splash park and the expansion of camp facilities down at the golf course. That's 2 items.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement to that?
Let's throw out some more ideas and we might have to cut off 4 or 5 of them.
Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think we can forget about the sidewalks because I think it's an important issue just because, there's a lot of foot traffic and those sidewalks are in pretty rough shape, and no matter whether or not we get a grant or not, sooner or later we're gonna have to bite the bullet and fix them.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Howe.
I think the sidewalks are a completely different animal. They're not a shovel-ready project. They're something that we've pretty much committed to doing already. We're working on the costs and we're gonna do them. I don't think that's something we're gonna put this on the shelf and 7-8 years down the road, if the funding comes around, we're gonna do it. So I think what we're talking about here is something completely different. These are ones that don't have to happen. They're gonna happen if we get the funding from the government or a grant or something like that. I think that's a completely different animal. But another one I've always loved that we could never seem to come to grips on was getting power to Flatbed RV park. So having powered stalls down there, I think the initial quote that we got was $450,000 or something like that. And if there was some way we could come in with a quote that was reasonable, maybe we could get power down to our Flatbed, get Wi-Fi and stuff like that. That would be another one that I would add. And then some type of washroom facilities, be it like something like we have down at the Murray River Boat Launch. There's a porta potty down there. But if we were able to do something that was a little better in the downtown core, I know like sometimes we have the soccer events at the TRE and the high school, and sometimes they don't allow you to use the bathrooms down there if you can't get in at the right time or the right teacher's not there. You can't utilize the bathrooms. So maybe bathrooms in the downtown core or on the walking trails, something like that would be a couple of thoughts for these as well.
Okay. Councillor Norbury.
The only one to add on to Councillor Howe, I think those are both great ideas. Wi-Fi also at Monkman RV Park. I know that I deal a lot in the Wi-Fi business these days, and there's a need for sure. People always look for Wi-Fi, they want to stay connected. So yeah, Wi-Fi I think would be a big thing. RV Monkman, Flatbed.
Councillor Kirkpatrick.
Just in regards to Wi-Fi at Monkman RV Park, I remember that coming forward, I believe it was the previous council in a report from the camp attendant that was there at the time, and I think it's come back a second time, the camp attendants that have now taken over. Has staff looked into it? I mean, they already have power. They have a facility that has washers, dryers, 4 bathrooms, 5 bathrooms, whatever. It's a $450,000 facility right there that has bathrooms and washing machines that can't put Wi-Fi there. Like, what does it take to put a Wi-Fi box in there?
I don't know. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Trent. So I haven't seen anything on Wi-Fi at Monkman RV. It is something that we can look into, but it probably is a little more involved than just putting in just a regular Wi-Fi box because of so many people that are there, but it's definitely something we can look into to see what could come of it. It could be satellite too. Right?
Get that internet.
Counselor Kirkowka.
Yeah, charge the campers, but, so to me, this isn't an item I wanna put on the back shelf. We own the Moncton RV Park, we own flatbed. I understand right now, flatbed's a little bit different in regards to power and all that, so I think that is an item that we need to get some, maybe better costs on it to have it ready. You know, when it's partnership through Capital Power, or BC Hydro and that with Site C, plus the lines, plus the district, plus the provincial and federal governments, to be able to do that job there for them, even with our First Nation partners, whatever. To me, Wi-Fi at Moncton RV Park is a total different thing. It should be just, maybe that should be an item that we circle, and we ask staff to add that to our 2022 budget to find out what it's gonna take to put Wi-Fi at the Moncton RV Park. I mean, I know 2 tenants that I've asked for, the previous ones, and the new ones that paused, and the new ones that came in already after the first year, saying the same thing.
And visitors that use the RV park have mentioned it to me as well. Yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Kirkowka. Would you like to make a motion? To recommend to regular council meeting?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we add Wi-Fi to Moncton RV Park for 2022 budget to the regular council meeting.
Seconder? Councillor Norbury, discussion? Councillor Howell?
Like, are we gonna add just that one topic to a meeting to put on our budget meeting? Is that what we're talking about here? Or can we just ask that it's added to the budget discussions we may have?
Yeah, budget discussions, yeah. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Councillor Kirkowka?
So right now, we have the 4 items that have been mentioned by councillors, us as a whole. Is there anything else from staff side, or even rest of council? So it was the splash park from Councillor Howe, campsites at the golf course from Councillor Kirby, power to flatbed, campground / Wi-Fi, Councillor Howe, washroom downtown / walking trails, Councillor Howe. 4 items. Is there anything else? I mean, just before we pass this, and I don't wanna see us, like, I mean, we give staff, we build these things, and all of a sudden, last hour in November, we're gonna start adding 5 more items. I'd rather have it ready, and then maybe we actually get to move somewhere in 2022.
Councillor Howell?
No, another one that I think got shot down here because of costs had to do with a liner over top of the curling rink. So we talked about a liner that would cover the curling rink in the winter so we could have Christmas dances and stuff down there. And it was like a $100,000 bill. And we decided at that time $100,000 is too much. We'd rather pull the ice in and out, but it would be great if somebody would pay for that for us so we didn't have to put the ice in and out. So maybe that would be a good thing to add to it.
To discuss again?
Just as a shovel-ready project, that we go get a quote, we find out this company provides these rolls, you roll this stuff out, it's $100,000, shovel-ready, ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely, I see where you're going with it.
But
It
I
is,
don't wanna pay $100,000 so we can protect our ice, I'd rather pull it in and out for
Right.
15 grand or whatever the number was, right? So,
okay. There was talk of fire suppression system.
community fire suppression system.
I'd written that down. Is council wanting to put that on the list as well?
I'd like to
Council,
hear about in regards to fire suppression system and everything, and so Christina Lake is the one I'm looking at. And it is, I mean, I don't wanna read the whole thing, I just wanted to share it at a regular meeting as a notice of motion. But it's done to the fire department, it's a $200, this is in 2021, so the prices may change. It's a $200 investment by homeowners to have either one sprinkler on your eaves trough or on your roof, or a couple that you hook your own garden hose to and turn the tap on and walk away. So I mean, it's, you know, unless you're thinking of something else where it's a trailer and you have all these, and maybe it's not Tumbler Ridge that needs it, it's Chetland. It's one of our local partners in the area, Chetland, Fort St. John, Hudson Hope. If that's what you're talking about, Council, I'd support that as an item too.
council.
So I'm just thinking about options for us. So in Logan Lake, my friend there has one on top of his roof, and it's not fed from your local water supply. It's actually fed from they bring in bags of water and run pumps down your street because it has something to do with there's not enough flow from the taps in your house, and if everybody in town's turning the taps on, you don't have enough water for the town. And when they actually need it for their fire hydrants, they don't have it. So they take these big bags of water and they put it on the street. They run pumps from that and they turn those on, but they only turn them on like within the next hour when that thing is rolling in. That's what he told me. don't really care, show us options is what I'm looking for, right? So if maybe our fire chief can come in and he can say, yeah, you know, we can set up an area that protects one side of the town, we'll have it sitting in a trailer, and if the fire assumes it's coming from that direction, it's $100,000. To do the entire town, it's $3 million. To put one on every house is $6 million. Like if we have some options that we can come back with, and that's to me is what to look at, is not give us the whole signed, sealed, delivered package here. Give us some steps along the way. I always thought like a mobile unit that had like the hoses and the big sprinklers on it, like you see the fire department in down south has, and like if you got into one of these situations up here, like when Logan Lake was burned, like they had 150 fire trucks there or something like that. Like if it ever happened, if Tumblers ever got out of control at the same time, are we going to get 150 fire trucks? Not if Logan Lake's already got 150 of them. Like I don't know how it would work, but it sure would be nice. Capital Power had talked about, because Capital Power, no, sorry, it was Migo Wind, Pattern Energy, had talked about wanting to do some type of a trailer system on their site as well that they could share with the town. So if it was close to their site, they would utilize it and they would take care of theirs. So this could be a partnership with groups in the area as well, and maybe there's specific grants for things like that. That are, if you can get industry and government together, our government will give you this much money. I don't know.
Yep, no, I think it's certainly worthwhile to investigate it further. Councilor Norbury?
I'm just reading a news report on it. Like Logan Lake, it says they had a heavy-duty irrigation sprinkler that they just attached to the roof of the house, and yeah, it seems like it should be a reasonable thing. Is this a potential add to our fire safety master plan, or fire service master plan, or is this separate? Is that too late for that? Because I think it also said it was only $45 to do it.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. The fire service master plan draft has already been completed. It will be coming to council next week.
Thank you. I guess my contention with all of this, to be honest, is I see a lot of things on our strategic priorities chart that we haven't been able to complete yet, and I'm afraid of adding more onto staff's plate when we have quite a few things that are collecting mothballs a little bit. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and for sure, I agree with you. But maybe the thing is this year, maybe we're not just looking for cost from staff. Maybe we're asking for cost and time. Because if staff is able to look at the list we provide for them tonight and go, you know what, Aline says, yeah, there's a slush park ready to go. Maybe Jen doesn't know about it, but she goes in the back and pulls it out and says, this is what we got. Easy, they can bang that one off. Or maybe they know of something else that's in here. They talk about a fire thing. Maybe, Dustin says, geez, I know of this that I could hand out right away. But if they say, building a washroom downtown, we got no idea on that, and that would take us $50,000 and this much staff time. Maybe we move that one off, but if we just throw these ideas out at them, and is there a cheap option and a minimal amount of time on any of this stuff? Maybe it's not the thing that we all want right off the get-go, but it gets us something that's shelf ready. So, because the whole idea of this is we don't want to miss those opportunities when the government's handing out free money that our community misses out on, right? Like that was what this whole discussion stemmed from, is that we didn't feel like we had anything, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to add? Ms. Thompson, going over the list here, do you foresee any issues?
I don't see any issues. I think that it's good for us to have some ideas as well, and we can do a little bit of research when and as time permits to see what other communities have done, like washrooms on the trails. It might be a simple unit that is pre-made, that we say we can bring this in, we have to do this for, we can estimate the amount of time for labor to do this, we have to put concrete in, and then we set it on top. And then the operation and maintenance cost going forward is gonna be this as well. So that may, at times that may say, we're looking at this, but we didn't think about how much maintenance and operation that is gonna be, so you know what, we're gonna pull that back, right? Because it's not only the capital cost that we have to look at, it's also the operation and maintenance going forward and how much it's gonna cost us as an estimate that we could bring, saying going forward, these are the annual costs. So I don't see a huge concern with it, because we are starting to look into 2022 capital items. I don't see an issue with these.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, moving on to 5.3, annual mayor's food drive, information from the food bank coordinator regarding the annual mayor's food drive 2021. We have a date picked October 26th. I'm happy to participate again. And council is again invited. Any issues there, council? Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Do we know if this is going to be the same as we did last year with setting up downtown and at the schools? Because if it was door to door, I think I would be against doing door to door at this time. And the way it was last year, you know, giving people the option to drive by, I thought that worked pretty good.
Yeah, I did too, actually, yeah. Ms. Thompson, can you ask Chief Curry if there's initial plans?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Chief Curry?
Your worship, fellow councillors, so right now, the plans are fluid. Right now, we're looking at what the pertinent COVID restrictions are. Both options are on the table. We are looking at both of them and kind of making plans, adjusting the closer that we get to the date. The food bank has seen in years past, we actually get a better turnout and better results from door-to-door services. Last year, we did better on the cash that was donated, which actually gave them the feasibility to buy what they needed. They didn't have a lot of redundancy, which inevitably happens with door-to-door. So that's a bit of a trade-off both ways. In any case, even if we were to do a door-to-door, it would be contact-free. So there would be no door-to-door knocking or anything like that. Initial plans have been made to try to get out the word as best we can using local businesses, social media, of course, our traditional means to try and get the word out and just have people place a bag at their doorstep. And then there's no knocking or anything like that. It's just strictly a contact-free. The process at the facility is going to remain the same, so there won't be people volunteering in and out. It'll be just dropping off. They're going to wait 3 days before they go through it. Just like they did last year, we dropped it all off. It sat there, and then they went through it and inventoried afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up, Councilor. Councilor Norbert?
I'll be there. I think it was a great time last year. You know, I think some others should try and climb up the fire ladder like Mayor Bertrand did. I did not make it to the top. I chickened out. But no, it's a great opportunity for everybody. And I'm glad to hear that, you know, fire chief and the food bank are trying to work out the safest way to do it.
Okay. Councilor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. I talked to one of the volunteers of this food drive, and she also said that they had better results when they went door to door. And I think as long as we leave it like Chief Curry said, is leave it at the door, I think you'll tend to get more than if you have drop-off centers like we did last year. But, I mean, I guess it's up to whatever we decide. It's, either way is fine by me, but I think door-to-door is gonna be more fruitful in the end.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Chief Curry has a comment he'd like to make.
Apologies, it slipped my mind when I was speaking before. There will be the option this year to do e-transfers as well. So as part of the messaging that goes out is going to be the option for those that are maybe a little bit hesitant, those that don't want to go out and buy, don't want to leave things on doorsteps, to do the e-transfer in hopes that, you know, we'll get a equally as beneficial show up for the actual money.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Howell?
Was it October you said they were gonna do this?
October 26th?
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, moving on to 5.4, Council Chamber Audio Visual Upgrades. Report dated October 12th, 2021 from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding the Council Chamber Audio Visual Upgrades. Ms. Thompson, can you give us a bit of an overview on this, please?
For sure. Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So the current system that we have is all right. However, we are finding that it's not necessarily clear when we actually post on our videos and everything. So staff went out and we did an RFP, and we applied electronics, was a successful bidder, but there are some options that we can look at. So the capital budget this year was $50,000, and then we secured $15,000 from Coastal GasLink for providing help to communities for open and transparent governance. So the difference between the two systems is basically the actual voting system. So with the regular system, you'll just get a microphone and speaker, and it'll actually be push to talk and off. It's not the hold like you have here, you push it on and you push it off. When you get into the voting system, we can actually get to that point where there'll be a little screen on there that'll actually, the motions can come up for you to read them as well, and council can actually record their votes and you put them into the system. And there are other features on there that the system can evolve over time. If council still chooses to go with option 1, which is within the 50,000 budget, or 62, sorry, I got your sheet. Yeah, so it came in at 61,290 less GST. You can always upgrade the system after the fact. So there would be a few takeaways and a few additions at the end, but basically it's the $10,000 that's different. So at the time when we were looking at the budgets, we did not replace the displays. I did reach out and get a quote, and to put in 75-inch displays would be about $3,200 each. And if we wanted to do a projector screen that came down, that would be about, sorry, I forget my number now, 1 second. Just 1 second here.
No problem.
It would be about $6,000 plus installation if you wanted to do a screen that came down. So it upgrades, it changes out all the speakers. So all the speakers would come out and new speakers would be put in. Each microphone has its own speaker, so you'll hear at your wickets, you will get that as well. When you are when you're speaking, your speaker goes off so you don't get any feedback on it. It does also have a queue system with the advanced system. So as council wished to speak, it would put you in a queue. And within that queue, once your microphone goes off, then you can enter the queue a second time. You can't queue as everybody's opening. It's when your speaker comes on, then it moves you out of the queue. And all of that would be controlled by yourself as the mayor. You would control and see the queue that's on there. Council members would see who's next in the queue as well. And that's where that additional $9,600 comes in, or $9,700 to do that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, so just a couple questions there. So option 1, 61,290, or option 1 is 61,290, and option 2, 71,890. So it's about $7K difference between the budget, is what she's asking for. $50,000 from 2021 budget, $15,000 in a grant. That's my understanding of that.
Correct.
So the only question I have in regards is the queuing. So I'll get to see it on the screen if we decide to go with option 2. My question there is if Councilor Norbury is queued in, I queue in. Sorry, Councilor Kirby's speaking. Councilor Norbury queues in, I queue in behind Councilor Norbury. Can Councilor Norbury re-queue before he speaks? So like here, I'll put my hand up. Whoever, right? So I get to speak. Councilor Norbury puts his hand up. Well, before he even starts to talk, I put my hand up and he nods. So now I'm already back in on the paper queue right next, right? So I'm just curious if that queue system is the same way.
After, I think, Ms. Thompson, please.
Thank you. So, no. So you can only queue in, so the mayor would turn the microphone on for Councilor Norbury. So as Councilor Norbury is speaking, he can't queue back in until you would be chosen next as in the queue, and everybody else can be in the queue, but you can't re-queue until that microphone is shut off after your turn to speak.
Councillor.
And the reason I asked that is now we don't get into a debate with two councillors. We don't get into an argument of state, right? So if Councilor, no disrespect, Councilor Norbury and I are having it, we can't be queuing right after each other. So he can't queue until he's done. So we don't the opportunity there is we should hopefully have other council queuing, so we don't get into a battle back. That's why I asked that
The
question.
possibility,
Because right now I can't,
the possibility still exists.
if nobody else queues.
Right. Yeah. Counselor Norbury.
So what Councilor Tuck was referring to is Robert's Rules of Orders, and we're supposed to keep that at all times, right? So, I mean, up to his worship, take care of that. I'm just teasing. Kind of. I like option 2. I think like we're adding a little more, but we're getting a whole lot more, right? Like I like having the little touch screen there. It can be more interactive. We can grow on it. And I think it would help our meetings. I think that's what Councilor Kalka was trying to get to, is that it'd help our meetings flow. We'll all have our proper turn. It'll prevent some of us, from speaking to.
Okay. Counselor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really like the idea of vote counting. I think that will be beneficial. There's times where I'm trying to look back to see what councillors voted on what, trying to even remind myself which way I voted. I like that. One question on the voting. Will that be available to the public?
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Member Trent. So that I have not looked into. In the system that we have, we can record voting. We haven't done that, so I'm not sure what the capabilities of the current program that we have. There are programs out there for recording minutes that you can actually provide that to the public, and there are some municipalities that do, but it would be a decision of council.
Follow up.
Thank you. I like that idea that the public can look at it because, whether it's lot expansions, etc., if they look back and they say, okay, Councillor Kirby has voted against that in the past, I'm going to phone her and talk to her and change her mind. I think that's a good way to go, that it's open to the public.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Howe.
Yeah, I had a few of those questions have already been answered, but voting recognition was the one that I had on there. We talked about right in the recommendation, providing transparent and open governance. We don't want this system to be to the point where, I touch the button behind my screen, Keith gets all the numbers behind where he is, and he says, yeah, this passed 4-3. Well, how did Bernie vote? If I can't see how Bernie voted, I can't give him shit the next, excuse me.
Wow.
I can't give him heck the next time. That's not the first time I've sworn here.
Yeah.
It'll be the last.
Yeah.
I can't give you heck about it, the next day I see you. How come you're voting this way? How do we talk about it that? Where are we at? Or how do I change your mind? Or how do we have this debate next time? Or whatever, right? So to me, the recognition, whether there's a light here or something like before I'm willing to vote on this type of a system, I need a little bit more. As for the TV screens, I think what would be more beneficial is something because when we're talking about motions quite often in here, motions flip and they change and we add this, we take that, and it's not a good practice, but it happens all the time. Is there some ability through staff to say, okay, what motion is on the floor? It's this one right here, and I'm reading it off, and okay, because we do waste a lot of time to say, can I get that motion reread? And then staff's like, oh, what was that motion? And we, to make it flow and be smoother, that's important that be included. The other part that we're not talking anything about this is the Zoom side of it. Like being on that phone and trying to listen to the meeting and contribute to it, it's the slowest I've ever seen it. I really appreciate the mayor when you go and say, how are you voting on the phone, or whatever you say. But if someone doesn't say something on the phone, they vote in favor. But if they can't get through, they're voting in favor. So it's not a good system, if you know what I mean, right? So
Extra time is needed to listen for that vote. Yeah.
exactly, and the way technology has gone now, there should be a better system for us. We should have an iPad in front of every one of us up here. iPads less than $1,000 each. You can get $7,000 worth of iPads rather than $6,400 and more TV screens that I still can't see from over here, right? Like, doesn't matter how big you make them, when people come in, they make their presentation smaller. I can't read any of the words on that monitor up there right now. Not a word, right? So, to me, yeah, put them on and read some of those words for me. To me, this is a great start, but to go from microphones for $50,000 to whatever else we can get for another $9,000 or $10,000 is a lot better. It's headed in the right direction, but it's not totally there for me yet. The Zoom side of it, I think we should have some type of a screen as well. I've looked at the Edmonton City Council meetings, Toronto. You know, I mean, we're not that size by no means, but there's got to be something that gets us a little bit more for this remote meeting type stuff. So.
Yep, absolutely. I think it is included in one of the options. Ms. Thompson? Ms. Thompson?
Yes, thank you, and I didn't do that in my summary, I apologize, but yes, we'll be able to integrate with MS Teams, WebEx, Zoom, or any other media that we wish to. So I didn't know, so instead of having one camera, we'll actually have 4. We can get away with 3 cameras, but 4 are better. It was like $2,100, so I said, give us all 4 cameras. So we'll have the 4 cameras, we'll be able to integrate right into Zoom as well. So if you want to look at, so what I was thinking is, within my budget, I didn't have enough 4 screens or whatever. So if for an additional $11,000, we can get a larger 109-inch on a diagonal projector screen that would go in as well. So then you'd be able to see everything up on a larger projector screen, rather than just a 75-inch display as well. So you can do it that way. I would need to look into the options of having a tablet to integrate, because then every member of council would need to log into the Zoom meeting instead of just seeing it up on the screen. Everybody, it would just be like a regular Zoom meeting. You would see every member in a small square on that screen, but that would require tablets or iPads or something like that, right?
Follow up?
It's, yeah, just along with that, I'm not sure the budgeting style on that, but when we were here on our first term in council, we were provided with either a laptop or an iPad. And the iPad was the original iPad. Like, it was pretty old, right? Didn't have the capabilities they do now. So I don't know, was that a one year thing, or is that something that's allotted to a council every time that you're here?
It's every time.
And so to me, that it's already budgeted for. We should have them up here anyways. I mean, I know Councillor Norberry uses his tablet to go through his agenda as well all the time. So like, you know, don't forget that option is there to utilize it. Is kind of what I'm getting at, right? So.
For sure. Councillor Kurkalka?
Yeah, so I guess my question, I got 2. So the screens that are in front of us, we'll be able to see the motions on that screen that's in front of us. Can we, if there's a delegation and they're doing something on that, will it not hook into our screen, feed through that to our screens?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. So the screens that you have are only going to be 5.2 inches. So anything that they have would be quite small. That's not a question that I asked about integration from a delegation to have it hardwired to show up on each, like if each person had that. That isn't something that I requested, but it's an easy enough outreach to ask the question saying, what can we do to get the presentations on like an individual member's wickets?
Okay. Follow up?
Yeah, and the other question I had for you, the recommendation that you've marked in your report, that's for option 2?
Correct.
And then, sorry, I did listen to you, but I forgot your cost in regards to upgrading the TV. So, because to me, if this doesn't integrate into my screen, Council, I was no different. I wear glasses, so I was going to give you mine to see if you can read, because I can't read them.
I got good eyes and I still
I
can't
can't
see
read
it.
that. So my concern there is sometimes when we have delegations, their information is very small on that screen that we have now. So to me, I don't want to see a big drop down thing, but maybe we're better off to do a big drop down and not have 2 TVs in here. If the cost is the same, if the cost, you know, can't remember what the cost was for your down screen compared to your 75-inch TVs or your 90 inches. Like, I think the biggest screen you can get is, I think that's the biggest TV is, I believe. That's what it is.
12-footer, I think. 144 or something like that. Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. It's just regarding Councillor Howe's voting issue. I think we still put up our hands and we can log in on the display as well. I think it's just, you know, I'd like to see how everybody votes instead of just having it registered on here, so you still raise your hand, whether in favor or not.
A little
So
bit more,
then that would eliminate that.
a little more transparency that way, yeah, I agree. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and I thought about that as well, but the problem in there lies in is that you put your hand up and you don't push the button, right? Then you gotta make a procedure on, you know, what takes precedent, what is the actual vote? And then they're sitting there and they're going, well, Bernie put his hand up, but he didn't push his button. He says he's voting in favor. Did he vote in favor? Right? And then we get this confusion again. That's my concern on that, why I don't think you should do it that way, but there may be some way to work around that. As for the drop-down screens, I don't think that is a good option in here because of delegations, right? So you got somebody who's coming in, you got the public sitting there, and we're gonna drop this screen down and cut them off, or where are you gonna put it at, right? To me, put the screen right here in front of me, and I can read it right off of here. And if I got bad eyes, I can zoom in on it or whatever, right? Or it's more pertaining to what you got there. I mean, like the output out of one of these things or the computer to give you video over here, I'm sure they can split that, put that to the back of these the iPads over here, pretty easy. And if it's already allotted in the budget, why spend the money on that, right?
Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Will this upgrade be better for viewing at home for the residents? That's a big concern, is that audio,
Sure.
all that will be better too?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. So if you've listened to any of the Dawson Creek or watched any of their videos, this system is quite similar to theirs. And the other thing that this system does is when a member's mic is on, the camera will actually zoom into that member of council instead of it just being across the room. It'll actually zoom into each member as they speak. And the reaction time will be much quicker because as soon as the mic comes on, the camera's there. It's not a couple minutes. Like we always have a couple second delay, which is why we leave it the way it is now. We can follow, but there's a lot of delay so that somebody's already half done speaking before the camera goes over to it.
Okay.
So the answer is yes, it will be better for the viewing public as well.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering because the voting display, his worship would be able to see how people voted, and if somebody doesn't vote, you'll have to obviously remind him to register that vote.
Sure.
So we should eliminate that, not pushing your button.
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Kirkowka?
Yeah, just one clarification from Ms. Thompson. Not when I was in and talked to her in regards to the system that we would say each other's votes. We actually have a screen that pops up, shows the vote. Thought she had mentioned that to me, that not only do you see the vote, but we all see the vote.
Ms.
I thought
Thompson?
you mentioned that in our conversation. Was it just the mayor that would see it?
Huh?
It would come up on our screen. I thought she mentioned that, I'm not saying she did. I thought, we talked about a lot of this. I thought there was one thing that you pulled out. And it talked about a small box comes up on ours that shows the vote. But it's,
Ms. Thompson?
I'm not sure if it shows the final vote, once everybody is registered to vote. That would be something that I would need to confirm. I do know that it gives you a little red box or a green box for yes or no, but I'm not sure if it registers everybody's votes as they come in. As they come in, that I would have to confirm. I'm not sure.
Have to have something.
Councillor?
maybe I'm wrong when I say it comes up on our screen. It might come up on the screen in front of us. Which Councillor Howell is mentioning about having them here. But I think it was up on that screen, the votes come up. There is a way of us seeing them. I thought we talked about that. Because I didn't think, no disrespect, your worship, but it shouldn't be just the mayor seeing how people voted.
Sure.
So right now, when I watch everything Councillor Howell's obviously looked at, it tells me who's voted who on the screens in their chambers.
Yeah.
And so is either on our screens it'll show us, or it'll show us on our desktops here. It's one of the two, so we actually get to see that, so that, I thought I sold it, obviously I didn't, so I need to obviously do more homework.
Yeah, no, I think that's important both on our side, but also the public side too,
Yeah.
to have some sort of a display there. Councillor Howe?
Well, I tried Googling the Dawson Creek Council meeting, but there's only one televised meeting that ever shows up on the Dawson Creek Council meeting, and I couldn't get any information out of that one, so.
Very true.
I don't think we want to do it that way, that's for sure. Like, the public not knowing, it has to be part of that system. They have to know how we voted on that. It can't be good enough for one person to explain, well, the vote was 4-3, these three against the vote, right? It has to be displayed here, either in front of us or on a screen that when they're watching, or both, basically. Like people in the gallery need to be able to see how we voted, and then the people watching at home need to have a side screen or whatever that shows approved, passed, not, least voted for or against, whatever.
And that's where the transparency, double up on raising your hand as well too. I agree. It's an important feature there on both sides. Councilor Norbury?
Mayor Bertrand, I guess my only question is like, do we need to wait for staff to come back with some changes to this before we start moving forward? Like, it seems like maybe we could start moving forward and they could come back with solutions to our concerns about the voting recognition system, upgrades to actually having an iPad, because change of work order is money, right? So what's that cost? So I think we're all in agreement. We want to move forward. So, should we wait? Should we just throw this out there and they can come back to us before we make decisions?
I think one of the questions is whether or not to go above budget. We have budgeted 50,000. We did receive a very generous donation from Coastal GasLink to put us up to 65. So I think staff is asking council whether or not we want to go above budget this year. My opinion, I think we could start with the microphones and test them out to see how it goes, and put in the budget for next year for further upgrades. I like all the information that's come forward, but I'm not too keen on going above budget at this point. Councillor Kurkowski.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the motion. The council chamber audio visual upgrades include voting, meeting management, and other features for future capability and providing transparent and open governance.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Discussion. Councillor Howe.
So we're not done yet, though, of what we're looking for, because I agree that I like the microphones, I like the system that she has, but to me, I want to go a step further, and we don't have the information on that. We can't spend the money in this meeting anyways, right? This is a P&P meeting that we can get the flavor of council, but that to me is where I'm willing to vote in favor at this point, but I want more. I want the next level beyond this, or at least answers to the questions that we have before I fully commit to this, going above the budget by whatever, $6,000, whatever it is. So if we can get some of those questions answered, I'm not in favor of the way the mayor was discussing it, of piecemealing it out and doing just the microphones this year and then doing this, because my fear on that is that you get the person coming in and out twice and the costs go up. It doesn't stay the cheapest way we could do the product that we want at the end anyways. And my concern is that would end up costing us more in the end. If we're gonna do it right. And if it saves us a ton of time in here, we're gonna make up that savings and not paying for 4 people to sit here while we're arguing over stuff, right? So.
Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think I'm in support of the motion. It provides clarity to staff that we're interested in going down this route. Let's do it all at once. To add to Councillor Howe, different technicians come in. You have 3 or 4 different guys. They don't know what the last guy quite did, and whenever you're dealing with computer systems like this, it's best to have it all done at once, have everything working. The same guy can check it to make sure that it's working versus, guy A, then guy B, then guy C. It makes sense to make sure everything's working seamlessly at the same time.
Yep. Don't get me wrong, I certainly like all the information and all the bells and whistles would be phenomenal. I completely agree. I'm just bringing up a concern about going over the budget. In my opinion, there's really no point in making a budget if we're not going to stick to it. So that's just my only concern with it. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering about, in regards to these votes again, we have a red and a green light. So if you're pushing in favor, the green light comes on, and if you're against it, the red light goes on, so that people can actually see how you vote, not only by a show of hand, but also, and they can go back and watch the video again and see how you voted. I don't think that would be a big deal to put up 2 lights on these wicked.
Okay. Councillor Kurkowski.
Yeah, the reason I put the motion on the floor is that it has to go to another meeting. We're not approving the funds here, it's P&P, so it gives staff a chance to go and get those answers. And again, I don't support a piecemeal concept in regards to when we've asked for this to be upgraded to all concerns, issues we've had in here, never mind hearing from the public that can't hear some of us, can't make certain things out. So I get about the over budget things, but it to me, the concept of over budget works sometimes, but then for something when staff comes and says, this is what we thought, We got a grant, now we need 7K and we're gonna worry about it. I mean, I can go back through my books and talk about over budgeted items that came forward in this council in 2021, that there was never a comment come up about the budget, the inset, and you know, why make a budget if we're gonna go over? Well, I can bring up numerous times that we've went over the budget, so I'll support the motion.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Howell?
Yeah, and just one more thing with the budget there, like, I like numbers that are accurate in a budget. Like if we were gonna do a recording system in here and they had said, well, it's $100,000 because they don't ever wanna go over the budget, we might go, we're not even looking at it for $100,000. But if they get more accurate with it and they're like, yeah, we think it's in the $50,000 mark, and it turns out that now we weren't quite there, we're 65, then we can have that discussion as a council, is that worth the money? And that to me is crucial of budgets. I hate overinflated budgets. We do that consistently in the district of Tumbler Ridge. I'm firmly convinced of that our budgets are way higher than what they need to be so that we never go over them. And I think if we were able to dial them back and have our CAO or CFO come in more often and say, you know what, we need a little bit more money for this because we didn't budget enough, but the overall budget was lower, like $1 million or $2 million lower than the previous year, and they got to come back and ask for a little bit of money here and there. I prefer that approach rather than approach that they overblow the budget by $2 million and then come back in and say, oh, we're never over budget. We're perfect. We never made any mistakes. We're right on top of it. I like it this way here, that it's a more accurate reflection of what's accurate.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 5.5, Annual Christmas Party and Service Awards Dinner. Report dated October 12th, 2021 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding the Annual Christmas Party and Service Awards Dinner. Recommendation, please, Councillor Kirkowski.
Yeah, if I could just get an understanding of what council would be voting to council Christmas party. My understanding is has nothing to do with this. It's within the budget of our CEO. But that's staff, that's her. That's her staff, that's not our staff. To me, if we're throwing a Christmas party that we're gonna council, that means we've got together and made the plans of where we're eating, where we're renting, what band we're bringing in, what gifts we're buying, what alcohol we're buying. We didn't do that as a council. That's done by staff, so I understand why it's coming for us, council.
Okay, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So council does provide the budget for us for an annual Christmas party. So it's also to open up a bit of discussion, like staff is recommending that we cancel the Christmas party, but can we also use that money we can change it from the annual Christmas party and banquet and dance, that maybe we go out and we do gift baskets or we do something else for staff as well. But with the restrictions, I guess we wanted to make council aware as well that we're recommending to cancel it because we don't want to leave any of our staff members out. Because we would have to have a vaccine passport. There's no socializing, so it has to be seated. There's no dance that goes with it. So, you know, it's also to have input from council as well on your thoughts.
Follow up.
Yeah, so just on a great explanation, maybe that should have been in here in regards to discussion, not a motion for council to vote on canceling Christmas party that's put on by staff. So I totally understand, like to me, maybe the motion should be looking that if we can use the budgeted dollar amount to supply all staff with a basket due to not all staff being vaccinated, as that will hinder from many participants being able to attend the Christmas party that you're throwing for yourself. So, that's no problem. I'll make it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think we should still be providing a dinner to our district employees. We may not be able to have it in person together, but you know, the act of having dinner I think is symbolic, and I think we should be giving people the option to getting gift cards to local restaurants. It helps our local economy. You know, it gets people going out to restaurants. You don't have to go sit down in a restaurant anymore. You can pick it up. We can still support our, you know, because I know a lot of restaurants, they need this time of the Christmas parties to generate revenue. So I think we should be offering, say like, just dinner for our employees and a guest.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Howell.
Yeah, and just again with the staff report that's here, the financial and budgetary implications that are not available. Do we not have an amount that's budgeted for our Christmas parties per year?
Yeah, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. I guess we missed putting that in, but it's approximately $7,000 I do apologize.
How many employees do we have? Sorry.
Ms. Thompson?
Full-time and part-time casuals. Uh,
100?
Not 100, I know it's under 100.
Okay.
But I can't give you an exact, sorry.
Counselor?
That to me, for this discussion, for this report, would have been excellent information. And that to me is where I would look at it and say, we've already budgeted for it, we put that in the budget that we were gonna do that. I think a letter to all of our staff explaining again, this is COVID, we'd love to have a party, we're gonna have a good one in 15 years when COVID's over, or whatever it's gonna take here. But at this time, we can't do it. So instead of, doing a turkey voucher or meals to restaurants or something like that, maybe we just do that, some type of a $70 bonus or something along those lines that stays in line with what our budgeted amount was, and let them folks decide where they want to spend that money on their own. That to me is, but it's crucial that we send them a letter, because what Councillor Norbury said is true, is that it's symbolic. People look forward to that time, and they need to understand that it's not us that don't want to do this. It is a provincial health order that we are under, that we cannot do all this other stuff that we want to do in the community. So in the best we can do is this, and we look forward to next year when we can have one at another time. So
Yeah, absolutely.
all of us probably won't be here for that one, because it'll be a new council at that time, but
No, I completely agree. I like the idea of the letter, and that was an idea as well that I spoke with Ms. Thompson about, is there something else that we can do? The Peace River Regional District decided to give Christmas Eve off to all their employees in lieu of a Christmas party. So that was a nice gesture. That time of year is certainly important to everybody to try and get together with family and celebrate. So I would definitely like to move that we use the budgeted amount for the Christmas party in some way to recognize all of our employees. Second, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Kirby, did you want?
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, thank you, Member Trent. Also, the service awards. I think those are a key part of the celebration, is when you're having these Christmas parties, acknowledging the work the staff does. So I'm not sure how many people would be getting service awards, but I mean, if we can't have a function, maybe we could get a list and we can announce it in council, or something to that effect.
Yeah, I like that idea. Councillor Kurkowka.
Great idea, Joanne. I thought it was the same thing. What happens out of it isn't good. I mean, to me, I'm not sure what the number is or what it is. We're actually asked to come here before the meeting in December. We come here at 4:00 and hopefully we can get some of the staff to come and show support for some of the people they work with that are getting some of these awards. And to me, again, they're not our staff, they're Ms. Thompson's staff. So to me, it's up to staff to present it to us, but why can't council support that?
100%. Yeah, I think we should set that up for December and give a little bit more recognition to each one of those. Ms. Thompson, you had mentioned 3 people were receiving service awards?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions? Call a question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Adjournment. Councillor Kurkowka.
At the October 12th, 2021 fall season Friday committee meeting, adjourned.
Seconder, Councillor Beeman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you.
that's gotta be my first swear in over 2 years.